All right, this is KP with I Write, kpmemphis10.blogspot.com, and I'm very excited to be tuned in with Mr. Conrad Dimanche today. How you doing, Conrad?
Excellent. So on my way to the gym, I'm feeling good.
Wonderful. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. I have a lot of independent artists that I've interviewed, and I have a little following on Twitter, so I'm really excited about speaking with you today. And I know you squeezed in some time for me, so I'm just going to jump right into the interview.
Okay.
Alrighty. First question I wanted to ask you, you are just very successful, very accomplished. Worked with a lot of people, most known for pretty much being Diddy's right-hand man, executive producer and A&R for 10 years. With Bad Boy Records, you've worked with Danity Kane, Day 26, Young Jock, Diddy, Notorious B.I.G., Carl Thomas, Black Rob, and the list goes on. It's just, you've done a lot. Out of your experience in A&R, what is something that you'll just never forget, whether it was working with an artist or being in the studio or doing negotiations? What's something that you'll just, it'll be a very fervent memory forever?
I would have, obviously there's more than one thing, but I think it would have to be probably what I would consider the height of my career, working with Danity Kane, Day 26, and Donnie on the Making of the Band TV show. And why that was, because, that was like the last few years before I left Bad Boy. And I've already put in a lot of work there. And normally, working with an artist doing an album, you have time, to do it. In the studio, it can just be countless hours, days, months that go by before finishing the album. But on that particular TV show, because of the TV show, there were real hard deadlines in terms of getting several albums done on the air and completed by the time the season was over, so that you could take advantage, or we could take advantage of the momentum that the show generated to help sell albums. So literally it was 8 weeks to finish 3 albums, which we pretty much did. The amount of pressure, I don't miss it. I got sick and I kept having these panic attacks because of the pressure. But to be able to pull it off, and especially Day 26 and Danity Kane's albums being both number 1 albums in the country 2 weeks apart, but to finish those albums in record time, have them come in number 1 was, no one really talks about it, but it definitely had to be some record-breaking shit, and there is no company that tracks, breaking records in that way, but I know myself it was a personal achievement, something very hard to do. That's something I'll never forget.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because a lot of times, with the way reality shows are kind of dominating right now, a lot of artists just feel like it's just easy to get in there, write a hot track, find this great producer to produce this hot track, and it get out there and it just do well. They think that it's like a microwave process. But with you having that experience, spending, like you said, days and months in the studio, and then turning that around and squeezing that into a smaller time frame and still coming out with hits, it kind of just shows the reality of it all, that that was not the norm. Just because that was what was shown on the reality show, it wasn't the norm. You guys were doing some record-breaking, moves with making that happen. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. Well, what I wanted to add is that, a lot of independent artists don't realize that the A&R process of making an album is the most important part at the record label, because if you don't have hit records, great songs, there's nothing for marketing department to market. There's nothing for a promotions department to promote, so the pressure is on the A&R, and that's why, a lot of companies have A&Rs coming and going because the project doesn't work out. They usually try to bring it with the A&R will do it all the time. But, at the same time, the A&R being one of the most important parts of the company because they have to turn out the product. And a lot of y'all here, they don't get that. And even just dealing with the hot producer and the artist or hot producer and the writer is not enough. The A&R is like the coach for the basketball team, the director of the movie. It doesn't matter if it's in Washington, and it's going to be a director from the outside telling you that he knows what the team is supposed to look like, with everything, how everything is supposed to flow. The same as, the coach on a basketball team, it doesn't matter if it's Jordan on the court. He needs a coach looking from the outside, telling them what plays to do. Obviously, when you have someone like Jordan, you're not doing as hard coaching as, lecture players, but nonetheless, you're not going to win the range without that coach there being the backbone of it all.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that because I've, done some PR, done some management for some independent artists, even people who weren't artists, people that were in different elements of entertainment. And the biggest thing that I found is that people don't like feedback. And at the end of the day, like you just said, Denzel is a name that everyone knows, but he's still being directed in these projects. So it doesn't matter how big you get, you're still going to have someone who has some type of investment, whether it's time, connections, or monetary, that is going to tell you, hey, you could do this a little differently. Hey, I wouldn't use that, as a hook, or hey, let's take that out as far as the production. We're not going to dub this, or anything like that. And it's like I found that that's where a lot of people they miss the boat, because they want to put something out and they don't want to be chastised, or they don't want to be pushed a little harder. Have you seen that be the case with some people that you've worked with, or some people that you feel like could have went to another level?
Yeah. But very few, because that bad boy is like, we all checked our egos at the door, walking into the studio, and the artist understood that, especially when you had a leader like Puff, there was a respect there. So, him putting him place, that respect was kind of passed on, and they already knew that this is a monumental place to be in, and the team, we always knew in most cases what to do. But yeah, you got your knucklehead artists that just don't want to listen, time to time.
Right. Well, I got a chance to meet you personally. I heard a lot about you, but I got a chance to meet you personally, face to face, at a music conference in New Jersey last year. I loved your lecture. Out of all of the people that were there speaking on the panel, I really wanted to actually meet with you afterwards, introduce myself, and I got the opportunity to do that. And you, just as, paramount as your lecture was, you were that much humble afterwards. And I just, when I talk about that experience, you're like the highlight of that conversation. I just wanted to ask you, I know that you speak at a lot of events. I know that you're called to, be a guest speaker, a keynote speaker at a lot of different entertainment and music events. But there's also a lot of conferences and showcases that go on, and people feel like, hey, this wasn't beneficial. I didn't really get a takeaway from this. What's your thought on the many showcases and the different events that go on for indie artists? Do you feel like they're good, they're a great investment, or do your research, or like, what's your takeaway?
Well, I do think that it's definitely, most of them are good. It definitely depends on who is going to be there, speaking or listening to the artist, whichever it is. I think, when there's not too many resources for artists out there, so if you can find good showcases, seminars to take away, even if you walk away with one thing that you learned, in my opinion, it's worth it, because there is no book on how to make it, there's no map on how to make it this week. So you have to try different things going there and it doesn't make sense or it's not worth it unless you walk out with the deal and you're wrong perspective from jump, but you have to go in there thinking if I can learn one more thing today, if I can make one more positive connection, one more positive relationship that I can build on, one little thing that can help me grow that more as an artist, then you have the right perspective. But unfortunately, most artists in the business, independently have the wrong perspective on the business overall in general. So I wouldn't be surprised that you could have people walk out, work, you're hustling backwards anyway, so you don't even know what you're doing.
Right. Definitely agree with that. I mean, a lot of artists, there are people who have been discovered through social media, but there's a lot of people who just feel like, I don't have to put any money into this. I don't have to invest into, quality mixing and mastering. There's just a lot of things they feel like they won't have to do. And it's a business. You are going to need a budget and you are going to have to do research, but it can be done. So I appreciate you sharing that. Now, in 2006, you were ranked number 3 in A&R by Headquarters, and you were the senior director at this time of A&R at Bad Boy. And you were really successful. You do credit a lot of your success to Puff as well as Harvey Pierre, and you pretty much consider Harvey Pierre as a direct mentor and supporter. Tell us what it was like when coming as an intern, not getting paid, not having a salary, to actually leaving Bad Boy as a well-respected veteran in the industry.
What it was like doing the internship?
Well, just your journey from coming in. Like, I know for me, I've heard you say directly, you had a goal, you had a plan going into the door. You knew that, hey, I'm not getting paid for this financially off top, but I know what my goals are. And I don't think a lot of people know that when you started with Bad Boy as an intern, it was unpaid, and there were times that, you only drank coffee or hot cocoa for the day just to make it. But with your mentality and your work ethic, you ended up being one of the most respected people in the industry and at Bad Boy.
Right. Yeah, you know what? I just went in with the attitude. I didn't know what I wanted in terms of being an A&R, but I also knew that I just wanted to be there and learn as much as I can. I knew that for me to get a job, eventually, I had to become an asset to the company. I had to build value to myself. I made it to the point that if there was a day that I was out sick, which I wasn't out sick, every year I had 104 fever, crazy, and I was there. But if I couldn't be there for a few hours, then they would miss me. Whether it was because I was the one that took out the garbage the best, I went to the store the best. But it started from that, but then turned into, well, he's the only one that knows what's the right version of the song. He's the only one that was in the studio every single day that knows everything about that record when it comes to mastering music. He's the one that the artists, really want in the room with them. It turned into that. So it was going in with that. I just soaked up everything, and I never wanted to leave. I watched Harv. But when I talk about Harv as a mentor, he's not the type of person that's very talkative, but just him allowing me to be around him and learn the kind of person I was. Every way it turned into, like, after the first year, people started to say I sounded like him because that's how much I was watching him. The way he talked and handled these situations, I started to try to mimic what he would do or, think about what he would do before I did it. And that's what helped me, grow and start to grasp things. And, something my father told me, if you want to be where someone else is, just learn what they did and do the exact same thing. And I took that going in, put the hard work into it, and just not being able to eat and things like that. And it's strange because it's not something that's given that people that really want something that's going to go that route. Because I would in turn give other interns a chance, and these were people sometimes that were younger than I was when I started, didn't have kids as I did when I started, and wasn't willing to sacrifice. They would work a few months with no pay and then start telling me hardship stories of how they have to get a job and they gotta leave or they're gonna start being there part time. And I'm looking at them like they're crazy. Someone who came in with the family and, happily with a smile on my face, did 80 hours a week, was hot chocolate in my stomach every day, not just for a day, but consecutively for months and months. So it's just not a mentality that most people that I want this or it's what I was put on this earth to do. It's all talk because at the end of the day, you're not willing to go super hard for it. And everyone said they go super hard, but they really don't know what going super hard is for something that you want.
Right. That's true. I think a lot of it, I mean, I've seen people's stories about work ethic and things like that, but I love how you speak on how you drew a lot of work ethic from your parents. Both of your parents came over from Haiti, but your father taught French and Spanish at a Brooklyn high school. You speak at the lecture, you did speak very highly of your mother, who owned a beauty salon, and it wasn't just a beauty salon. She made it the best beauty salon in Queens, and it was highly recognized. So that even inspired you to start your own barbershop. I do just want to ask you, how do you feel things would have been differently if they wouldn't have come to the United States? Do you feel like you still would have honed into that work ethic and made it over here to launch, a career in music?
It's so hard to say with that. Work ethic, probably, I'd say, if I had half of what I had in my blood, I would still be a go-getter. But the experience of them coming to New York, especially when I talk about my mother, is because she wasn't traditionally educated, as far as having college degrees.
Mm-hmm.
To do her hair, like she went to school in Paris and things like that. But just to see someone that come to the country and not speak good English, and then 15 years later we have the biggest house on the block. Really from her work, it was something that, especially with my dad in Haiti, he was an attorney, and then coming here, he got his master's degree. So he was much of a scholar also. He read a lot of books, but to see him with his education and my mother brought home more money from just being a hustler, it just did something to me. Almost might have turned me off from school, which is not the right approach, but it made me just want to be this entrepreneur, like mom, this hustler, entrepreneur like mom. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's awesome. And it is inspiring. And it also just sets the tone to where, just because you're not saying, hey, I want to get just anybody, school is not, I don't feel, for everyone. I feel like there's education that you can receive from other avenues, but it just shows how someone can be successful without, bachelor's, master's, PhDs. You can still get into this world and have a good life. So I think that's very encouraging. Another thing that you talked about in New Jersey at the conference was PMPWorldwide, which I think is just a really awesome site, allowing producers and different label execs to connect as far as production. And I also follow a beat manager and beat placer, Sarah J, on Twitter, and she's always, shouting out PMP. She's always just got a lot of positive things to say about it. And you're also very involved as president and co-founder. What made you want to launch this platform? What made you want to have a new face for production? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, as an A&R, and one of my good friends I went to high school with came to me with the idea. And prior to that, years ago, I tried to do something similar online, and it just didn't work. And I didn't have the experience or the knowledge of internet businesses to help it succeed. But as an A&R, when he brought me the idea of having quality producers all in one place, I first thought about how it would make my job easier. Every album, I bring out all the bullshit into a pool of producers in one place, and now it's also writers all in one place. It excited me, and I loved it. I got it right away, and I just said, let's go. And, as soon as we launched, I started using it, and it did make my job easier. I was able to get in touch with, the dopest producers from the UK, right at my fingertips without having to filter through all the kids that's there, and because the PMP wasn't free, it made it even better. Because it kept away the novice producer. It was only the queen of the crop that felt confident enough that at that time I'll pay $50,000 to the hour profile because I know my music is dope enough.
Right.
It's until this day, it's proven to just be a great resource for the artists and record labels, but also a great place for producers to get, their shit sold, to market themselves, to everyone from the indie label to the majors.
Wow, I didn't even think about that, like, being on social media and what you had to filter through just to find some quality work. That makes perfect sense. And like you said,
and because, I'm sorry to cut you off, but because most social media is free, it attracts everyone.
Right.
There's anybody that's calling themselves doing something that's not doing something, and it was the idea of, no, we're going to put a premium price on this, still make it attractive so it, naturally going to filter out the bullshit.
Right. And I just want to say, for all of my producers who are listening, you just heard, that powerful statement that if you feel confident about your work, if you're serious, if you're not considering yourself a novice, then PMP Worldwide is something that you want to invest in and calculate in your budget, because it can connect you to people that could take your career to another level as well. So I'm glad that you elaborated on that. One of the things that I have found, Conrad, just speaking with different people and doing interviews, that people are saying the record label is just structured a whole lot differently. There's less budgets available for music videos. There's less budgets available for artist development. And for some labels, artist development doesn't even exist. You have to come developed and, pretty much know what route you want to take as far as imagery and things like that. With your experience in A&R, do you feel like it's just going to come to a point to where people are going to have to consult with like someone like you who's a label consultant, or do you feel like people are going to be able to have a platform independently and that will attract labels?
Well, I think even to have a platform independently, the way it should go is that you need to put together a team of professionals. You should. The best way to do it, because it's the best way to assure your success or the chances of your success. A lot of artists don't get that. I think it's always going to be that way. That a lot of artists are not going to get it. They're not going to want to get it because they're not going to want to invest. Probably mostly because they just don't have the means to invest in themselves. But it's something that is really needed. You can try it on your own. On a face, but really put together the right team to develop you and get certain things done is the most effective way to do it. Unfortunately, a lot of TV shows that paint the picture of I just need to sing in front of someone, they're going to take me and then I'm a star. That's not reality.
Right.
I'm not sure if I even answered the question, but that was my answer.
No, you did, because it pretty much just, you were clear about it. You need a team. You need a strong team. And the key word that you used were professionals, because I see a lot of people that have representation, but, things are misspelled. There's not really a secure logo. It's not like, hey, I'm taking this seriously. So just like, the artist has to be working hard and taking things seriously, their support team has to as well. So I'm glad that you shared that. Just one more question, and then I'm gonna kind of wrap things up. A lot of people, are talking about Kendrick Lamar right now, and J. Cole as being young artists that are kind of leaning towards that stride of like legendary. things like that. For you, what fresh new artists or new faces have caught your attention and made you say, hey, that person has it. I can see that person having a career of longevity, or I really think that was a smart move for this artist to get a chance in mainstream. Who's somebody who's caught your attention?
I think I definitely like Kendrick Lamar. Wale, I think is pretty dope. There's another kid I can't recall his name right now. But there's a few of them out there. I think the level of creativity that they're bringing is pretty dope.
Okay.
That was lost for some years.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
I agree with you, and I feel like Kendrick Lamar and Wale are very lyrical. It's almost like it's almost like it's poetry. If you muted the track, you could still just flow to their lyrics. So I love that. I love that you said that about those two. Well, I do want to wrap it up, but I do want to ask you, what's next for you? What can we be on the lookout for, or should we just stay tuned to PMP Worldwide and visit your site on the firm, your consulting site, or do you have anything in the works that we should kind of be on the lookout for?
I always got things in the works. And right now, it's an app that I'm working on. It's a music app similar to the site, totally the side on the site, but basically it will be. I can talk about it because we're just gonna be launching soon.
Oh, okay.
It works almost like Google. We're gonna be like the Google for music, independent artists, but all on your phone. Like when I say working like Google, being able to search. I'm an artist and I'm searching for hip hop up tempo banger. I literally will be able to type in hip hop up tempo banger, and the algorithm is gonna pull up, tracks that fit that description. You can listen to it right there, and you'll be able to listen to the music, but also shoot a message instantly to the creator of the music. Even if I'm a rapper and I need a singer, this type of voice to get on my hook, I will be able to, put in the keywords that fit what I'm looking for. It's going to pull up different vocalists or writers, and you'll be able to listen to some of that stuff, shoot them a message. So, I'm definitely on the technology shit right now. So that's where the business is going, and I'm constantly trying to, develop more things for the masses that's trying to do music. There's a revolution right now going on in terms of making music, the listening experience, what we see happen with trading. It's all about the revolution of the experience of music on my phone. In addition, to a couple with, people, there's more music, more people ever than in history making music. So I'm definitely trying to take advantage of that and just create this monster music app that I think is going to change the way a lot of people do.
Awesome. Do you have a name for it yet?
Beat Search.
Wow. Okay, everybody, be on the lookout for Beat Search. You heard it first on I Write with me, KP Memphis 10, and we just completed an exclusive interview with Mr. Conrad Dimanche. Thank you again.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.